The Priory in Orpington is probably the oldest habitable house in the London Borough of Bromley and is known to many as the Old Museum and Library. It is a Grade 2 star listed building, putting it in the top 6% of all listed buildings in England. Along with the Orpington High Street, I've been photographing the Priory Gardens since 1982 to record the change. In this video, I'll also go back to the 19th century and before and show what it looked like then. In this video, I'll also run through its history, mainly using maps and photographs, and illustrate the changes. I'll also cover the hidden passageway and what was there before the library building. There was actually quite a lot. I will make a separate video on Priory Gardens Park and the outbuildings, as there's too much to cover here. Please stay to the end for all the detail. I hope you enjoy. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching Eclectic Experience, change seen through images. The Priory is located here, at the top of Church Hill, Orpington, Greater London, previously in Kent, and it is part of a conservation area. Orpington has been occupied for a very long time, with large amounts of worked flint actually being found in the Priory Gardens. This is Middle Stone Age or Mesolithic period, 8000 BC to 4500 BC. There are also Roman ruins nearby, but the first documented record of the land where the Priory now sits isn't until 1032. This is when a chaplain to King Canute gave his estate, using an old English name for Orpington, which I won't try to pronounce, to Christ Church Priory Canterbury. A building at this site was first mentioned in 1270, but none of this wooden building survives. In 1290, there are records of important rebuilding work at this site, and it is likely that some of that building actually still remains today. To put this into some context, the earliest parts of the house we now call the Priory came about in the reign of King Edward I, who, amongst many other things, built the Eleanor Crosses, a replica of one of which now stands outside Charing Cross railway station. We can see from this plan of the Priory that although, as with most buildings of this age, it was added to and amended over time, there is still quite an impressive amount of the original 13th century building left, marked in solid black on this plan, and it does include sections of the main hall, including the back of it. One of the biggest changes to the Priory actually came with Henry VIII's dissolution of the monasteries, when the Manor of Orpington was broken up. The Priory building and a small area of land passed to the church, and it became known as the rectory. As few rectors actually lived in the building, in 1640 it was leased out, and some significant changes were made, including installing a single arch brick cellar under the existing floor, and black and white checkerboard slabs were put on top of it, which are still there today. A new kitchen range was also built, and this included an underground passage to the older part of the building. This was to allow servants to move between the kitchens and the grand hall without being seen. Moving forward to 1864, the church sold the freehold, and this was the end of the process that had been going on for a long time, of the rectory building changing from a working agricultural one to gradually becoming a family house. It now was firmly a family house. It was at this time that its name was also changed from the rectory to the Priory, which we still call it today, even though it never was a priory. The name change was probably part of the, for want of a better word, medievalisation of the house. Other changes that happened included the addition of a minstrel's gallery over the main stair, and the windows being replaced with fake medieval ones. Then between 1919 and the 1930s, the garden was laid out in the arts and crafts style, with the aim of creating unity between the house and garden. The next big change probably happened in 1947 when the estate was purchased by the Orpington District Council for use as offices. What I found really fascinating is that given the long life of the Priory, the biggest change to the site actually happened in the 20th century, after being purchased by the council. There was huge change across the country after World War II, a lot of it caused by the Luftwaffe bombs, but in this case it was the then Orpington Council that did a huge amount of demolition. It demolished the service block, and by today's standards this was very extreme, and even the main restoration of the Priory building was heavy-handed. Coming back to the plan, we can see the parts of the building that were demolished to make way for the library. The demolished block partly dated back to Tudor times, but was probably mainly 17th century. And after looking at the plan, we can see it here on the edge of earlier photographs, and also on photos taken at the time of its demolition in 1959. An interesting survivor is an old sunken passage, which used to connect the service rooms, kitchens, to the reception rooms. And it's still there. Unfortunately, it is completely blocked off, but it still exists under this concrete slab. The service wing was demolished because it was not seen as significant at the time in the late 1950s. It was pulled down to make way for the library, and this opened in 1959. The architect evidently aimed to unite new and old with the use of brick and flint panels in the new building, and also blurring the boundary of the uses. Some of the library functions were carried out in the old Priory building. The museum opened in 1965 and was initially mainly based in the Grand Hall, but later it expanded to take up more of the Priory building over the years. I first photographed the Priory in 1982 when both the museum and library were very much still in use. To illustrate the change over the years, these are some comparison photos. There's been a lot of tree growth recently, so it's not always been possible to take the same angle for the photographs, but hopefully there's sufficient here to see the changes. Some points I found of interest. One of the biggest ones is there used to be a very prominent dormer window in the roof at the front. This was removed only in the late 1950s, and there also used to be one on the other side as well. This black door at the bottom of this tower is actually the door to the garderobe or toilet, and is 14th century. Just round the corner of the building there is this curious small window at ground level. It is actually the window to the basement. Looking from the other side, this is a photo of the entrance to the basement from inside the building. At the top of Church Road there used to be a high wall that ran round the outside of the Priory. Most of this was gone, demolished when the library was built, but some does still survive if we look on the corner of Ramsden Road. For another view of the old Priory wall, we can look through the old lich gate at the entrance to the church. The Priory's listed building status of Grade 2 star makes it a very significant building. This is primarily for its medieval origins, but also its later additions and changes, as its use changed and modified over the years, and no doubt will again change in the future. In 2016, the museum left the Priory and a long lease was given to an arts organisation, V22. There are occasional open days when it is possible to see inside the building. These are some of the pictures I took in 2022 and 2024. There are some great ceiling details, as well as fireplaces, windows, doors and staircases. This is the old library. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to find out more, I've listed the sources I used in the description below for further information. Please like and subscribe. for more similar videos and some that are quite different. Thank you for watching Eclectic Experience. Change seen through images.